Hello everyone, I'm back with another video on my channel, and this is all about useEffect hook, right? And you have already seen me in a couple of videos. I'm using useEffect hook. So I already told you I will be creating a detailed video on useEffect hook, and where I'll be covering all the concept on useEffect, and I'll show you some examples like how we can use useEffect for multiple lifecycle methods, right? Okay, let's start. So first of all, you will think about what is this hook, which I have already spoken about multiple time. Hook is something ReactJs team have released after 16.8 version. So and these hooks mainly they have created for function based component, right? So previous to this version, what used to happen is we used to have a class based components where we used to have all of these lifecycle method used directly, like component did mount, component did update, or unmount, or on different other lifecycle methods, right? But as they have released hook, so they have also given the facility where we can use states inside your functional component, and previous to this version that was not possible, right? So providing these hooks after 16.8 version, right? So they gave us the facility where we can use state or different other lifecycle methods inside the functional components. Okay, so let's jump to the demonstration or the example. So one thing I forgot to tell you is about the rules. So what is rule here? So if you are using hooks, right, so you should not be looping in. Okay, you should not loop your use effect in inside the loop, right? And you should not use your use effect inside the condition, like if conditions or nested functions. So you should avoid doing all of these if you are going to use use effect or functional component where you're going to have use effect method, right? And even use state. So you should keep this out. Okay, so what does that mean? So if you scroll down, so you should not do this way, right? So you should not wrap your use effect inside if condition. Okay, you should always keep outside. So that is what it means. Okay, let's come back to our demonstration. Let me create one folder. So we are on app.jsx. So now let me create one folder so that I'll keep the components outside. So I'll create this folder and I'll create one component called rsf. Great. Let me import this here. So if you wanted to use useEffect, so you just start writing useEffect, right? It will auto suggest you if you have installed all the extensions, right? And it will also help you to import from the React library. So once you hit enter, you will be able to import that useEffect from React. So you can also do one thing if you want, like instead of importing twice, right, you can also merge it to once. So because it is coming from one library, right, you can say comma and just pass this bracket here, right? So now you have use effect imported here. So next thing is very important here. So you should pass a function here so that you can use effect. So you cannot directly use or pass something here, like it accept a method. So the other way, like old way, you can do like this. That will also work. Okay, so the short form of doing is the arrow function. So that's why I use arrow functions, right? So now use effect, right, have couple of like it mimic couple of lifecycle methods, right? So in previous video I have already told you, like this is the render diagram, right? So where how ReactJs work behind the scenes, right? They have three stages I told you in previous video, where is mounting, updating, and unmounting. So in class based component we directly use component did mount. That is a method, right, which will help you to execute some of, like, let's say I told you, like did mount only call one time in one component, right, when you initially render. So you call that method and keep your APIs call and everything inside this, right? And update is when you are updating your state or props, right? So that's when we call this method. And when we come out, or basically when we unmount that particular component, we call this method called component will unmount. How we are mimicking all of these three in use effect. So I'll come back to that. Let me have some space so that it will be easier. So if you define use effect like this, like the way it is right now, okay, runs on every render. Okay, so what does that mean? So every time you do some change on your component, right, it will be keep changing. So how is that? So let me define count. Okay, use state. So this is also one hook. Okay, but we have used a couple of time in previous video, right? So I can also you like import from the previous import, like you can just say comma separated, that will also work, right? I'll set the initial count 0 here, and I'll use this count here, like I'll say this render count times. Okay, so you can see this component runs 0 time, right, because count is 0 right now. But if you do set count here and you just pass count plus 1, basically every time you run this use effect, you will be doing addition to the counter. So now if you come back here, it's keep changing, right, because count is changing. So every time you render, it is an endless loop now. Okay, that's why we used to say we should be very much careful if we are using this use effect, right? So where, yeah, if you pass this set count and you're keep increasing, right, it will be like this. So you'll be keep loading a lot of numbers on this, because you are, that's the nature of React, right? If count will change, you will re-render. When you re-render, this use effect will call. It's an endless loop now. Okay, so I think that's the best demo we can give you on this particular use effect. Now what is next? Like if you wanted to avoid this kind of situation, so what you can do, like you just wanted to add once or something like that, or first time. So there is something called dependency array, right, which you have to pass after this curly braces. So you pass this dependency array. If you pass this empty, so what will happen? Let that counter be running here. Okay, what will happen? Runs only on the first render. Okay, so this particular empty dependency array, if you use, so it will only run once. Okay, so how can we demonstrate that? So now let me remove this part, and I'll be console here every render, so that we can see the CR terminal, oh sorry, CR console log in browser. So if you reload now, you see here this component runs 0 time, because we are not actually adding anything here, right? But if you see this particular console log which says runs on every render, so basically it ran once, right? So you have rendered this particular JSX, like which is this component render count time. Count initial value is 0, right? So now if you just set this here, what will happen? This component render one time. Okay, that means this particular addition happened only once. So it was 0, now it added to 1 count here. So that's why you see this 1 here, right? Now what can be the scenario when you wanted to add this every time, or you are updating this value? So if you use the use effect this way, so it mimic this method, which is component did mount. Okay, so the mounting phase of your component is complete by just doing this way. So now what is another way? We have this component did update, right? So what will happen if you use effect in a way where you will be passing dependency? Okay, that means this dependency array should have some dependency. Basically, if you here, if I am doing something like, let's say every time this count change, right, I will console.log, I'll say update the count. Okay, render on count update, I'll just say that. Okay, so what does that mean? Every time the count change, right, it will render on the update. So but one thing here, this runs first time, also this runs on every time your dependency value will update. That means if you update this count value, this particular console log will execute. Let me clean up this and reload this page. Okay, so you see here it ran on first time. So let me do one thing, let me comment this one. Okay, so now you see render on count update. It rendered twice because first time it rendered because this runs first time, basically it is mimicking this one. Okay, now second time it rendered because count changed, you have added one more value to it, right? That's why it says 2 time this particular value change here. Okay, you can also use this so that, let's say if you do that, no, so you will notice here. So first time this use effect called, because then that is the nature of this use effect, right? That time count was 0. Okay, next time you have changed the count. Okay, because you are using this on the mount, so on mount you have changed the value. So because of that value changed, the nature of React is re-rendering, and whenever your state or prop change, right? So if you see this, whenever your new prop or state change, so it render again. So that means if count is changing here, you are calling this use effect, which is having a dependency of count. So this count is changing, that's why this execution is happening here. Okay, you can see this render on count update 1, right? So these are the 3 most effective ways to use, right, use effect. There is one more phase pending, which is component will unmount. So whenever you take out this component, right, unmounting is what, like when you are moving to another page and just removing this particular component from your DOM, that's when unmounting will happen. Okay, so how can you mimic that? So you can just return a arrow function. Okay, console.log unmounting this component. So you cannot execute this here until there is a reason to remove this particular, because right now we are not using router, so we cannot go to another page, right? But we can do something where we can remove this based on the condition, right? I'll do that. That's why nothing is consoling right now, because you are not unmounting, right? You are only mounting. So what we can do here is let me create in the app.js, let me create one const so remove component and set remove component use state. Okay, it's will say true, so first time it will be true. So basically what I'm doing here, so remove component, I'm just giving the condition here. If it is true, then only it rendered. So if you see here, this is rendered. So now if I set to false by using some button or something, right? Because otherwise if I do manually, that also will work. So if I say false and save, so this component unmounting this component. So basically when I change the state, right, true to false, that's when it triggered re-render again, and because of that particular component came out from the DOM. That everything happened on the fly. So that's why I'm saying let me create one button. Okay, remove or unmount component. Okay, let me define on click here. Okay, if you can do that, again define that up there. There is a short way also, like you can also do like this. So you can directly set here, like if it is single this thing, right? So what you can do, you can just set this one to whatever you have opposite to that, remove comp. Okay, now what we are doing on click, we are setting this again, whatever it is there, like if it is true it will set to false, if it is false set to true. So the default value is false, so let me set it to true. So now first time you have this component, right? Okay, so now you see we have rendered twice. Now if you click on unmount, so before even doing that, let me do one thing. Let me show you this component. So this, we have this component demo use effect, right? And we are using 3 effects here, everything you can. So you should also learn ReactJs tool. So we'll take one specific class on ReactJs dev tool, but still you can see we have hooks, state, and all of that. And you can also see we don't have any props. So if you will be having child component, definitely you will have some props running through. Okay, so let's come back to this element. Okay, you see here we have this component, which is like this component render one time. So whenever I just click on this, right, it removes that, right? It removed from the DOM. And whenever this happens, right, that's when you call that method. So there might be a scenario when you will be moving out of your chat and you wanted to send the message to the server, okay, I'm going offline. And your friend also received that message, okay, this guy is offline. WhatsApp is the best example, right? So when somebody is not chatting with you, it says he is not online, or some message it will says. So right, so that is unmounting on the React, using React use effect, right? So we have covered all of these three, and I think now you know how to use use effect in React.js functional component. And I would request you to try some more examples and come back to me if you have any questions. Hope this small example of use effect would help you to understand the concept of using this particular hook, right? The use effect. And you try some examples, and if you have some questions, please do post me over the comments. And thank you so much guys for being on the video, and please do like my video and subscribe to this channel, and please do not forget to press the bell icon, otherwise you will miss a lot of latest videos coming up on the channel. Okay, so thank you, bye bye.